Growing Big with Steve Bartylla.
In a bunch of past episodes, we've talked about using hinge cutting. We've talked about edge feathering, creating sidewalks, bedding areas. In each case, one of the things that we mention is that we are screening along with providing extra browse and such. By screening, what we mean is that, it's a lot harder to see from one side hinge cut area to the other. So what are the advantages to that? Well, first off, as hunters, an advantage is that, deer can't see us as well. As long as they can't see us, as long as they can't hear us, as long as they can't smell us, they don't know we're there. If they don't know we're there, you know what? It's just like we're not even hunting our property. That's one of the big keys. Taking that low impact approach is one of the big keys to make it so that, the deer numbers just keep going up and up and up and up and up as season progresses, because the neighbors, they're out there hammering their woods. They don't know how to hunt. They're doing all sorts of things wrong. If they only did it the way that we do. No, be thankful that they don't do it the way we do, because they're exploding their woods. At the same time, we are training the deer, the resident deer, that our entire property is a sanctuary. We're hunting it hard, but they don't see, they don't hear, they don't smell us, therefore we are not there. We accomplish that through creating low impact stand locations in high odds areas by our habitat improvements focusing deer activity through this location. Okay, and that's where one of the big ways that screening comes in. They can't see us, we're not there, as long as they also can't smell and hear us. Okay. Next is social stress within the whitetail world. Doe groups are really not much unlike inner city gangs. Each one of them, each doe group or family group, consists of a leader, a matriarch doe, and then its members, which in this case is its relatives, its female relatives, and its very young male relatives before they get dispersed at 1.5 years old in most settings. Okay, these doe groups, they don't like being around each other, especially if the population's high and resources are low. When that's the case, there's a stress involved. The more dominant doe groups select the best areas. The most submissive doe groups, the very low end rung groups, they end up getting stuck with whatever the heck is left over. Okay, and they actually do jump up on their hind legs, battle, all that type of stuff over their turf. That is very stressful, very high stress, particularly on those lower end doe groups. By creating screens, again, it's a visual barrier. Now the deer on one side can't see the deer on the other. Okay, out of sight, out of mind. Just like when it comes to humans, for deer, if they can't see those other deer, if they can't hear those other deer, if they cannot smell those other deer, they're not there. Screening helps take out the seeing factor. Okay, and then lastly, the big thing that screening does for us is it makes it so that during the rut, all this also applies to bucks, the social pressure. If there are two mature bucks on your property that both want to be the dominant man, they can't see each other, they aren't fighting, they aren't killing themselves, and no one can convince me that we put anywhere near the amount of importance on the stress that bucks go through during the rut. The stress bucks go through during the rut for a land manager is incredible. They drop 25 to 30% body weight on average for mature bucks. That means they're going through heck. Okay? If we can minimize that, if we can minimize the stress they're going through, we don't end up with as many broken antlers, and we end up with bigger deer the next year. Okay? For this year, though, the more mature bucks we can have on our property, the better, because that gives us more deer to hunt. Okay, so the screening helps in those regards as well. But there's also a wild card in all this. On a park effect, mature woods, Mr. Big can stand on top of a knoll and he can look out there and he can see every darn doe because they stick out like a turd in a punch bowl because they have no cover. What screening does is it creates those visual barriers that makes Mr. Big have to work harder to go out there and find those does. He has to bird dog your woods rather than just sit on that knoll, look around, no does, I can move on to the neighbors. We want to keep him on our land as much as we humanly possibly practically can. So how do we screen? Many episodes we've already covered using hinge cutting, edge feathering, sidewalks, doe bedding areas. All of those things create screens. Okay, another great screen is, especially up in the northern areas, the Midwest and northern areas, is Miscanthus x gigantus. It's a sterile oriental grass, okay, that you plant the rhizomes of. You go ahead and you plant 2 rows of those 3 feet apart, staggered, 3 foot spacing between plants, so the rows are actually looking like that, staggered. You can go ahead and create a really good screen. In 2 years, it's not bad. In 3 years, it is great. You can go thicker and get it in 2 years, 1 year in really good growing conditions. Okay, that is a really great way to create a screen. All you have to do is spray, disc, and stick the darn things in the dirt 4 inches deep. Okay, if you don't know about Miscanthus gigantus and you're up in the Midwestern northern areas, look into it. It is a great tool to use for screening. Another tool is warm season native grasses. Your big blue stem, your Indian grass, your switchgrass. Those things, if you go ahead and plant it now, you have to go at least 10 foot, possibly 20 feet wide on those to create that screen, but that's another good screen. Corn. You can leave some corn standing to create a screen as well. Sorghum's another choice. Any one of those things can all serve as very good screens. Egyptian wheat is another one. As a matter of fact, if you're going to plant Egyptian wheat, go ahead and mix Egyptian wheat and the sorghum helps the Egyptian wheat stay up a little better. And that's the problem with most screens. A lot of screens is that as weather comes, those native grasses in the north probably are going to be laid flat. Okay, that Egyptian wheat and sorghum combination is most likely going to be laid flat. The corn is probably going to be laid flat by bear, frankly. But that Miscanthus tends to stand up all winter long. The point is figure out a way to hide your access. One of the things I often do is I go ahead and I put blockades just inside my property line. And then I have a trail between that blockade and that property line, that fence line, that goes in through there like that. So I'm hidden from the deer on my property, but the deer over on the neighbors, they can actually see me as I'm working those property lines. And we are training them, you're not safe over there. The wind is going from the heart of my property to the neighbors as I'm using that line. Now, my deer can't hear me, my deer can't see me because of the screen, and they can't smell me, but the deer on the neighbor's ground, they can. And they are being trained. They're not safe over there. You best come over here where you are safe.
Growing Big is brought to you by Wildlife Research Center, the gold standard. Reconics, see what you've been missing. Antler King, bigger bucks, healthier deer. The Heater Bodysuit, you stay warm or your money back. Furminator, the best food plot implement on earth. Bush Hog, performance you can count on. Redneck Blinds, the best hunting blinds on the planet. Chestnut Hill Nursery and Orchards. And foodplotsfordeer.com, planning your habitat improvements and improving your hunting.
Screening is a very powerful tool. It hides deer from each other, reducing social stress and increasing the number of deer that we can go ahead and hold on that ground. And it hides us from the deer. Creative use of screening can be a big difference maker in being able to hunt a property hard without those deer knowing you're there, as well as reducing the social stress those deer feel, which makes them healthier, happier, and want to spend more time on our ground.
Growing Big with Steve Bartylla.